Hi everyone, Jenna here. Thank you so much for joining us. Hormone plays a really significant role in our daily, everyday lives. And that's why we're testing for hormone disrupting chemicals like BPA, phthalates, parabens, as many of these chemicals have been linked to a slew of health issues. And some of them mimic estrogen, some of them block testosterone, and which interrupts your hormones. And for women, it's even more important since many of us actually have irregular periods. And many women also find the period to be painful. Actually, like a 2012 study involving 408 young women found 84.1% of women had frequent period pain, and then 43% reporting that pain occurred during every period. So this is actually what we're going to talk about with Leah Brueggemann. And so she just sent me a request. I'm just going to let her in, and then we can go on to introduce her. So she should be joining us. Oh, hey, hi, Leah.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. I
Of
was just
course.
about to introduce you. It's
Ah,
perfect timing.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm always worried about this little awkward silence, like when I'm trying to like send in requests, let people in. So this was like super smooth.
It happens. Real life.
Yes. So everyone, I just mentioned a little bit how common painful period is and what irregular period is for many women. And then painful period is actually a condition called dysmenorrhea, and it's happening to female. Now it's happening to female at much younger ages.
Yeah.
And even more recent studies showing that over 92% of like a 4,000 something cohort study in Australia, aged between 13 to 25, actually experiencing dysmenorrhea.
hmm
That's why we're really happy to have Leah with us today, because Leah is a painless period specialist.
Yeah.
Leah is a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner, the period repair expert. So thank you again for joining us.
You're so welcome. I'm excited.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your educational background and what led you to become like, a period repair expert.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, when I first got my period, I had a horrible period. And I know that's a lot of women's or young girls' experience. And I remember telling my mom while I was curled up on her bed, and I was like, this is not fun. Like, this was what, becoming a woman is. I got my period. This is horrible. And the only advice she gave, because she had painful periods, was, oh, sorry, honey, you just got to deal with it. And it preps you for, child labor. And I was like, great. So that was my life for a really long time, really painful periods. And I just thought that's how it was. My mom would have to come pick me up from school sometimes because I was so sick. And I'd be puking from my periods. And that was just it. That was my life growing up. And then I didn't think anything of it because I was told that period cramps are normal. It's just part of being a woman. And it wasn't until I graduated from college and I was diagnosed with fibroadenomas, which are benign breast tumors, which is when I started jumping into the health space. So up until this point, I was your typical like college student. I lived off of coffee and bagels, and I thought Skittles were an acceptable form of breakfast. Like that's just how my life went. And so when I got diagnosed with fibroadenomas, that jumped me into like, what's going on? Do I have to get these removed? Like, what's going on? Um, and during this time, like I started going to all sorts of different doctors and specialists and naturopaths and trying all of these things. And, they would be like, well, you're estrogen dominant, and here's this like magic formula that's going to help you get rid of your fibroadenomas. But outside of like commenting on my estrogen and the fact that my liver was not doing great, they never really commented on my hormones in general. It was like, go on a progesterone cream or do something for your estrogen, instead of being like, why is your progesterone
Right.
low? Why is your estrogen so ridiculously high? You're only 23. Like, why is this so obnoxious? Um, And so I spent years and thousands of dollars trying all of these different supplements and these different doctors and these different diets, and nothing worked. Except for I got a really bad relationship with food. That's the only thing I gained from this. I was like,
Oh no.
but then that's when I started just doing my own research. I was like, this is ridiculous. So I started tracking my cycle, and I learned that I had a luteal phase defect, aka like my luteal phase was too short. I was getting married soon, and I was like, well, I want to get pregnant, and I know I need to have a longer luteal phase to get pregnant. So that's what kind of like stuck me into like, let's see what's going on. And I literally just like, I hit the books and I started reading, looking for people who had similar stories, or like, is there something you can do to work with your body instead of like trying to force your hormones into these boxes, and stop going down the progesterone route. And that's where I found cycle syncing, and working using nutrition to support the rise and fall of your hormones. And then I was able to lengthen my luteal phase. I was able to raise my progesterone. I was able to regulate my cycles because they had been all over the place. At that point, I got painless periods, literally going from throwing up to like not even needing to take ibuprofen. And then I went on and I was like, okay, there's like so many women are dealing with this, because I started talking about my story, and people are like, I have painful periods. I never knew like this wasn't a thing. And so then I went on to become an FDN, which is a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner. And basically, we are detectives. So we use functional labs and your history and your body and your symptoms and your story to get to the root of what is going on. So we really take your labs, but clinical correlation with what's actually going on in your life to get to the root issue, instead of just being like, your thyroid panel looks like you have a sluggish thyroid, and then treating the thyroid, right? That's not the answer. What is going on that's causing the issue? Always dig deeper. So that's what FDNs do. Truly, I think we're detectives. You know, we dig deep until we figure out what's going on.
I love this. This is such powerful story that you can tell, and it's like huge difference once you make the change. I mean, obviously, it also took time, and then I love the fact that you're spreading your knowledge and also make these really personalized plan for everyone, because everyone is different.
Exactly.
Because you mentioned like you diagnosed with estrogen dominance, and which also makes it detoxing like a challenging for your body. That's something that we also realize, like different people are different. They have different mechanism for detoxing, and everyone is like really different.
Yes.
But many like people that actually don't realize that, you know, toxin comes in, they also goes out, because we have seen people with, you know, they have a high burden of toxin coming in, but sometimes it's not coming out. So it's like, hey, for those that it's not coming out, then making sure, you know, you decrease your toxin exposure, because you better be careful, because it's not coming out. It's everyone's different. Experiences is like different. So how does like estrogen impact your ability to detox from other things?
So that's a loaded question. I think that it's really a circle. Okay. So like, if you have bad drainage and bad detoxability, you're going to have issues with estrogen. And then it also affects your detoxability. And then you're in this fun circle, because your liver is what detoxes excess mutated hormones. So if you have estrogen dominance, you have hormonal issues, that's already putting a stress on your liver, right? But then if you have detox issues in the first place, you're not doing such a great job getting rid of your estrogen. So then it's really just stopping the circle. You have to stop in the middle. And figure out what's going on, because it's not just as simple. This is my like biggest pet peeve, is people are like, you have estrogen dominant symptoms, go take DIM. And I'm just like, no, one supplement is not going to change your life in that way, because you have to figure out first, why do you have estrogen dominance, right? And in terms of what I had going on, which you guys would have been so much more helpful back in my day when I was going through this, mine was from endocrine disruptors in my life.
Oh, wow.
It was cleaning products, my skincare, my hair care, I was like Dove deodorant, antiperspirant. I used to get a headache every time I would clean my bathroom, but never put together that maybe I should change my cleaning supplies. And so it was really from my food and my endocrine disruptors that were in my everyday life that I was using daily. You know, you put on skincare every day. I wash my hair, use, especially with curly hair, you use things, so many horrible ingredients. So that was my driving issue for my estrogen dominance, was my lifestyle choices and my nutrition. And so no matter how much I supported my liver and my detox pathways, everyone's like, do all the liver stuff. And I was like, I am like, fix. It's because I didn't figure out what was causing it in the first place. And so when you first have to like trace back, where is it being caused? And then you need to follow that through. So like, get rid of the cause, support your drainage systems. So you need to figure out, like, are you pooping daily? Are you sweating? Are you peeing? Like, those are your pathways. And you need to support those. You should be pooping about 2 to 3 times a day. I will let that sink in, because everyone's going to be like, I don't poop that much. So make sure that the drainage pathways are open, and then you need to support the body as a whole, because detoxing estrogen is liver. It's also your gut, though, you know, good gut microbiome. And so it really is a whole body support, and just taking a DIM supplement is not going to help you at all. So that's where I find it's tricky, because it's a circle and you can't address one without the other. But I think if you were just going to start with one thing, it would be to lower your toxic intake. So figure out where your endocrine disruptors are coming from.
We're totally on the same page. That's what we're here for, is trying to make sure people know where their exposures are coming from. And oftentimes, without doing the testing, it's really hard to pinpoint, even if you're like, you think you're super clean, oftentimes, because not everything is on product labels. So it makes it much harder for everyday consumers to actually understand where the exposures are coming from, unless you actually do the testing yourself.
And faulty marketing. Like, people are like all that, it's healthy, it's clean, it's natural. It's like, no, it's not.
So how does estrogen dominance play a role in period pain?
Oh, that's a good one. So this is going to be a long answer. So you have 2 categories of period pain, 2 categories of dysmenorrhea. Primary dysmenorrhea is caused by excess prostaglandins, inflammation, for lack of a better term. Women with painful periods have been shown to have 4 times the amount of excess prostaglandins than women without painful periods. So there's some like science data. There's a reason why your periods suck. And then secondary dysmenorrhea is caused by women with endometriosis, PCOS, ovarian cysts, fibroids, actually the copper IUD. So it's kind of, think of it almost as this outside force, even though it's internally, is causing your period pain. Now, estrogen actually hits both of these, because in your primary dysmenorrhea, where your period cramps are caused by prostaglandins and inflammation, estrogen dominance, having too much estrogen, drives inflammation. It drives excess prostaglandins. So you can't focus on lowering your inflammation without focusing on also bringing down that estrogen. So that's really important in primary dysmenorrhea, to pay attention to that, because typically, like, if you have excess estrogen, you know, with your gut, you're having issues with your drainage pathways. And estrogen and progesterone you think about them as the 2 dominant hormones in your menstrual cycle. And progesterone needs to be dominant in that second half. Now, if you have low progesterone, you're probably going to be dealing with bloating. You're probably going to be dealing with anxiety. You're probably going to be dealing with PMS, and most likely like heavier periods, maybe clotty periods, not great fun periods. Now, your progesterone can be low because it's actually clinically low, or it can be low in relation to your estrogen. So if your estrogen is just so high, even though your progesterone is where it should be, that ratio is incorrect. And that ratio plays a big role in your periods, right? So that's how estrogen affects you there. And then when you dive into secondary dysmenorrhea, which is, PCOS, endometriosis, all that kind of stuff, endometriosis, endometrial lining outside of your uterus actually produces its own estrogen. So a lot of women with endometriosis are very estrogen dominant simply because of that fact. And so when I think of people being estrogen dominant, you also in turn want to be thinking about excess inflammation, right? Because you also store estrogen in your fat tissue. So it's really, now we're just like going in another direction, but like it's really important to also be paying attention to your inflammation if you have estrogen dominance. They go hand in hand. And if you have period cramps, you have inflammation, you have a drainage issue, your liver's not keeping up with everything. So they just kind of, they're friends, they go together.
Wow, this is so interesting because I think like a regular doctors, they were only looking at maybe your progesterone level or your estrogen level, but people don't really talk about this ratio that you just talked about because, yeah, you might be at normal level for both estrogen and progesterone, like compared to the rest of the population, but it might not be right for you, that your ratio might not be right. Wow, that's really incredible.
And it's important then to also like look at people's symptoms too, because like even if like, and that's where normal and optimal levels in the lab are so different. Like I get so many clients, especially my clients I run labs on, and they're like, I ran all of the conventional labs with my doctor and I was normal. And then we'll dig a little bit deeper. We'll do some functional labs, or we'll take the labs that her doctor ran and we'll put them and look at them from a functional standpoint. It's like, well, even though it's normal, it's not great. Like it could be better. So that's where it's really important to just you have to look at everything from that whole body experience, because that's how you're going through it.
Right. So like, because pain could be really different for everybody. And then, for period pain, it could be bloating, could be stomach cramp, it could be vaginal pain. Like what kind of pain are we talking about can, kind of lumped into this whole period pain?
So I feel like when we think about period cramps, just in general, like people think my uterus is contracting, so therefore it should hurt. Your uterus is a muscle. That does not hurt me. Your uterus should be able to contract without pain. Okay. So if it is causing pain, in the case of like endometriosis, that could be scar tissue, it's pulling on, or endometrial tissue. In the case of, primary dysmenorrhea, that's your excess prostaglandins, inflammation is causing that. It can also be a pelvic floor issue, which is another topic to discuss for a different day. But it's typically just like that. It's, kind of like labor contractions. They have a rise and a fall. And some people just feel them in their pelvis or their uterus area. And some people feel them like getting a knife stabbed into their back. They'll get them really in their back. Or I've had clients where it's like this spreading down their legs, or their, like their legs go numb from their period pain. So that's like when you think about period pain, I think a lot of people think about those cramps. But when you think about your period in general too, like so many things that are categorized as normal, like bloating, like, looking like you're 6 months pregnant before your period, or having a ton of PMS, or turning into a witch the week before your period, even though you feel like you just can't control yourself, getting a ton of anxiety or depression before your period, having really heavy periods, so like going through like more than 10 tampons on your period, 10 to 16, or having a really light period. Like all of those are red flags. You should just bleed. That's it. Like your period, your temp, if you're tracking your cycle, your temp drops and you go, my period's going to start. And you get, your tampon or your pad or your menstrual cup or your period underwear, whatever you use. And you get that and you're prepared and you're ready and you just bleed. And you may be a little bit more fatigued because yes, you are literally shedding your uterine lining. And yes, your hormones are at their lowest on your period. So maybe your energy is a little bit lower, but like it's not that you should be bedridden. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
like that's it. Your flow should be a nice cherry red, or a deep wine red, and that's it. It shouldn't be incapacitating your life. And I always love for people to slow down on their period,
Mm-hmm.
honor their body where they're at, but like it shouldn't be like, I'm sorry, I have to live in my bed today or on the bathroom, having to call in sick to work. Like your period really shouldn't be like that. It should just be bleeding. That's it.
Right. People should really spot these abnormalities because they're not normal. It should be just like, a smooth process. So besides pain, like other health concerns someone is should worry about when they're experiencing frequent period pain?
Um, are you saying like if they have period pain,
Yeah. Is there
should
any other thing they should be worried about that could come with period pain that people tend to miss?
um, you know, I always recommend talking to your pelvic floor therapist. Well, in particular, one that specializes in centering of your uterus, because if your period, especially if you get like brown blood at the beginning of your period, or you get a ton of back cramps or things like that, it's very possible you have a tilted uterus or a resting
Mm,
uterus. And there are pelvic floor therapists, not all of them, but there are some that actually specialize in fixing that, and they work specifically with clients with endo. So it's just, when you go for your pap smear or anything like that, your doctor may like comment, be like, oh, you have a tipped uterus, and not say anything about it, but that actually can affect your fertility like later on.
mm,
So like, I just think that like when you have painful periods, it's your body's going, hey, something's not right.
mm-hmm.
So, look into your supporting those nutrition and lifestyle changes. And then if you aren't feeling great in like 3 to 6 months, then I would recommend that's when you go be like, hey, should I look deeper into maybe endo, or should I
Mm-hmm.
look deeper into a pelvic floor therapist, or things like that. That's what I recommend.
That makes sense. So you mentioned nutrition, and then in your, IG reel, you also mentioned that people need to up their omega-3 during ovulation to help with period pain. So why is that?
So they've had a lot of studies showing that omega-3, specifically omega-3 uh, from fish, DHA.
Mm-hmm.
So you can also get that from algae, has been shown to lower prostaglandins. So remember,
Makes sense.
women with menstrual periods have 4 times the amount of prostaglandins, inflammation. So omega-3s can lower them. So it's really helpful if you start upping your omega-3s from ovulation to period to help with that. Get your salmon in, get your algae in. Some other thing though to think about with that though is thinking of your ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. So
Mm-hmm.
it really should be like a 1 to 4 ratio, if you're ideal and great and super healthy, a 1 to 1 ratio. In the US, I'm pretty sure the statistic is 1 to 40.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah, we've heard.
our typical, diet. So no wonder we have horrible periods and tons of inflammation, because the standard American diet has so much processed food and high in omega-6s. And you don't even think about it, but like if you're
Mm-hmm.
cooking with canola oil,
Right.
seed oils, your any fast food place that you're getting in, even peanut butter, all really high in omega-6, which is inflammatory to your body.
Right. So what's the ideal meal for dealing with the dysmenorrhea?
So I always tell everyone you have to balance your blood sugar before you can balance your hormones, because blood sugar comes first. So my ideal meal is a balanced blood sugar meal. And that is, here, I will use a book. Half is vegetables, fiber. You want to get fiber in, okay? Good for your gut, good for pulling out estrogen. And then quarter protein, and then quarter fat and carb. Literally, just like think about it as a plate issue. So whenever I sit down to eat, I just check in, like, where's my veggie, where's my protein, where's my fat and carb, right? Because a lot of people, if you think about it, and I aim to get about 30 grams of protein in per meal. But a lot of times when you think about it, you look down to eat, you're like, oh, I have an egg and a piece of toast, for breakfast, like a standard
Mm-hmm.
breakfast. Or what's another one? A snack a lot of times is a piece of fruit, or a pasta. Pasta is a big one. So I just wanted to have some spaghetti, and it's like, okay, let's break that down. Egg and a piece of toast, you have a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, and a lot more carb. So where's our fiber? Where is our nutrients, our veggies? So you already have to rearrange that. And then like for pasta, for example, as much as I love pasta being Italian, like you have no protein. You have no fiber there. So I love pasta. I'm going to still eat my pasta, but like I portion it as my carb, and then I add some veggies, and I'll have a ton of meatballs, or I'll add chicken or something like that. So it's not about restricting and not eating foods as long as you have no issue digesting them. It's about balancing your blood sugar. It's literally that simple.
I love it. I love it. It's like super actionable if you think about the plate. I love this, just thinking about your plate, how much is each portion, and then plate it before you eat it.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, you can do that with soups or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I have some clients, for example, that are not in the US, and culturally they're like, we eat a lot of beans and a lot of rice and stuff like that. I'm like, that's fine. Like beans have protein and beans have carb in them. So think about that. Like maybe you need to add some lentils for some more protein. Or you need to add some mushrooms for some more protein, but you can all do that. I was not actually referencing a book for the person who asked that question. I literally just pulled it up to demonstrate. It's just a fictional book.
Awesome. So like some of the natural ways to for people to deal with period pain, like obviously balancing blood sugar meal is extremely important. Are there any other ways that they can naturally deal with it?
Start seed cycling. So seed cycling is like the first thing I give my clients or anybody. I talk about seed cycling probably every 5 videos I make on Instagram, because it's so simple. It's so simple. Like you take 1 tablespoon of pumpkin seeds, 1 tablespoon of flax seeds, whole, organic, and then per day from your period to ovulation, and then ovulation to period, you do sesame and sunflower, and you just grind them before eating. So you want to get them whole and organic because they go rancid really fast when they're ground. So you don't want to be keeping them for longer than a week. But so there's no studies on seed cycling. Before people are like, oh my gosh, there's no studies on seed cycling. But there are so many studies on zinc and lignans and omega-3 and vitamin E and manganese. And guess what those seeds are full of? Right. So that is why it helps your cycle, is because it's very full of these nutrients that you need at different phases of your cycle to help. So like pumpkin and flax are really good at egg quality and detoxing estrogen. And so egg quality is going to give you a stronger corpus luteum, which is going to give you more progesterone. So better period. And then when you switch over to sesame and sunflower, they're very high in vitamin E and manganese and B vitamins and omega-3. So again, lower prostaglandins, vitamin E is so good for that. And so that's what I love about seed cycling, even though people are like, there's no studies on it. I'm like, no, but there's studies on the nutrients that are contained in seeds, which is why it works so well. And if you have irregular cycles or PCOS, you can do it with the moon. So with the new moon, do pumpkin and flax. And then when it's the full moon, switch to sesame and sunflower. And it's that simple.
Wow, this is really, really cool. And then I also appreciate that, instead of like just taking a supplement, using the actual food is really, really cool, because then you get additional fibers and other nutrients that's not actually in the supplement.
Exactly.
I know you also, to make it easier, you also carry a product that you have on that to help people just to make all the grinding, take away all the grinding. You don't have to prepare. You just like simply, swap out, put on your cereal, whatever food you're eating.
Yeah. Seeds. Yeah. So this is not actually my product, but I partnered with them because they're awesome. They're founded by a dietitian, Funket Wellness Seeds. They're linked in my bio. And it's like a subscription. So you literally will get the amount of seeds that you need for that phase of your cycle, so they don't go bad. And you just like sprinkle them on your smoothie or wherever. that was a game changer for me because I kept grinding my seeds in my husband's coffee grinder, and he was like, "Seeds in there." So it was kind of nice to just have my little bag and sprinkle them on and not have to worry about them going rancid or anything. So I really do like that.
Awesome. Oh, this is so much fun. I know we're like almost time, but I still have a few more questions for you.
Of
Do you have
course.
more time? Okay,
Yes.
cool. Because I know you also have a Painless Period podcast, a one-on-one course actually.
Well,
So tell us a little bit about that, because I think I checked out the course, the different modules. I think it's like so useful and comprehensive. So tell us about it.
yeah, so I have a few different resources. So I do have a podcast, which is Balancing Hormones Naturally.
Yes.
We have a ton of awesome guests on there. And then I have a couple different courses. Painless Periods 101 is I think the one you're talking about, which is
Hmm.
just a passive, short, cost-effective course, which is like what basics do you need if you know nothing about health to start working on balancing your hormones and getting painless periods. So I go through like what kind of nutrients do you need to be getting in? What should your
Hmm.
breakfast be looking? What do you need to do to support your liver and reduce like estrogen and endocrine disruptors? So that's what I cover in that one. And then if you go a little bit step up, I have the Hormone Reset Program, which is a live course. So I actually give group coaching calls in there.
Hmm.
And we only run that 3 times per year. Um, and that is, you have a bunch of training modules, but you have group calls every single week. And we
Hmm.
take you through the whole process of like learning how to literally reset your hormones. That's why it's called that. So we get people with painful periods, low energy, bloating, low progesterone, all the good stuff. And then if you just want like the full dealio, I do one-on-one coaching. And that's where I run labs for my clients. And so we'll run labs and we'll go really into depth and figure out what's going on. And then I just open up spots for that when I have spots.
This is awesome. Lastly, you noted on your website that you're also a musician, you know.
Yeah.
What do you play?
So I actually went to college for music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I do piano and voice, and then I actually studied organ on the side because I did a lot of church music.
Wow, really cool.
Yeah,
So it looks like we have one question.
yeah,
So somebody asked how to handle PMS depression.
yeah. So that is associated a lot with lower progesterone, specifically apregnanediol, and B vitamins. So I I do recommend like looking at your nutrition. I would start seed cycling, and then I always recommend like, getting in more chickpeas, sweet potato, beef, and things like that after ovulation to help get your B vitamins up. But again, it's not like a quick fix. There could be
Mm.
some things going on deeper under the surface. So, I mean, those are some general things you can try, but you might have to dig a little bit deeper to really get full healing there.
Yeah, but make sure to check out Leah's website and then the courses. And then if you have any opening, book a meeting with Leah to figure out the root cause of
Yeah.
these period pain and depression.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So everyone be sure to follow Leah and also go to Leah's website. We'll have everything in the notes today. And enroll in Leah's, Painless Period 101 and other modules. So thank you so much for joining us. This is like so informative.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Bye.